Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Regina Leung from Vancouver Asian Film Festival, and I'm the director of the VAFF industry program. So today we are here to have a virtual Filmmakers Talks with one of our virtual programs. But before I start, I would like to acknowledge the land that we are broadcasting in. It's the unceded of Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and First Nation. And today we are very exciting to have few of the filmmakers from one of our virtual programs, and which is called the From Dream Scripts to Disruption to Disassociation virtual animation program. And three of our filmmakers will be joining us here, and then we have a quick talk back at this time, and other with all of our virtual programs or in-person programs that we without some of our sponsor, our government to our public fund to support us, we won't be able to showcase a different type of story to our audience either in person or virtually. So let me bring three of our filmmakers here, and then we can have our quick get to know them a little bit, and I'll talk back for that. So welcome them one by one. There you go. Hi, everyone. So we have here is Esther Chang. She is the animation called The Tours Ahead. And then after that, we have Hannah Sai, and her animation is Coastal Community Center's Friend. And then also the last but not least, we have Julia Murasawa from the animation Dragonfly. So, and then what was that? And then what we're going to do is just do a rotation, have everyone tell us a little bit about yourself, and also amongst all the career path, why you want to be an animator. So let's start with Esther.
Hi. Yes, my name is Esther. I'm an animator, filmmaker. The question was just an intro, right? Yeah. I like to make short films. This Detours Ahead is my second short, and I think animation is a great medium. It's very fun. You get to create whatever you want, and you can tell your story. So I think it's a pretty magical medium.
Great, good. And now next is Hannah Sai.
Yes, hi, I'm Hannah, and I'm currently a fourth year student at Emily Carr University of Art and Design, and I'm studying 2D and experimental animation. Coastal Community Center was a film that I made for my third year at Emily Carr University, and it was really made with the blood, sweat, and tears of me and my teammates trying to get all of this together, and I feel like it all worked really well, and animation really was really, I feel like, the best way that I could tell this story.
Thank you so much. And next, Julia.
Hi, yes, thank you so much. My name is Julia Morizawa. My animated short is called Dragonfly, and I am the writer, producer, and director of this film, but it was actually animated by an amazing two-woman team from Roly Poly Animation. My animation director is Maria Martelinero, and then our lead animator was Ava Benitez. And so I am not a hands-on animator. I do not have the skill set to do that. But the reason that this project, why I went with animation, and this is my first, foray into animation at all. So the reason we went that direction is because the subject matter, it's a war drama. So it's about the Tokyo firebombing of March 1945. And I just knew there was no way that I could produce that live action on a low to no budget, self-produced, sort of scenario. And a friend of mine actually suggested, well, what if you did it in animation? And it had never crossed my mind before, but she planted a seed, and it grew from there.
Great. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of question for your animations with that, because it's, yeah, like what you said, this is something if you're going to do a live action is go back to your period pieces, it's definitely a big budget, but animation is also cost quite a bit of that too, right? So maybe I'll just start with just curious, and the budgets, right? Like is all of you, is it, this is, what is the budget look like, this average, right? Is it like a big budget or low budget you can share with that, and what is the, like the challenge that you, the roadblock that you went through to make this animation?
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I can start. I guess I think I was still considered low budget for an animated short. Maybe low to mid. I ended up getting the Canada Arts Council grant as well as the BC Arts Council grant. So that was also like a new process for me because I've never applied for grants before, and there's not a lot of money in short films. I'm sure you all know, especially animated shorts. So I thought grants was kind of the only way to go about it. Yeah, especially because my first film was also like, it was a thesis film in school. So there was no money in it. You're kind of just slaving away doing it. So I was like, I think I'd like to get some money, if not enough, just like enough to pay for the creation of it, you know? So I think getting a smaller budget and working by myself was kind of helped keep that budget in check. Just because I do kind of do everything in the pipeline. So I directed it, I wrote it, I animated it. So I could basically, the money that I actually needed to pay out was for the softwares and for ending up paying a sound person and doing all like the final post and whatever. So I could do that in like a good quality way. But then I can take control of the actual process and in some ways cut corners animation wise, because I am the one animating my own designs. I don't necessarily need to spend time creating a proper turnaround because I just know what it's going to be like in my head. So that was one way that I could kind of budget a smaller budget and make it work. Yeah.
So let just the audience know. So this is Esther's animations. This is just one of the clip on her animation. The story is a young woman embarking on a road trip, watching the landscapes transform from the idyllic and blissful to cold and unwelcoming. She struggles with independence and self-reliance while moving through for the harsh landscape. It's all come to head when she strikes a deer. She records her grief and move on. So that's her story. We go to Hannah to talk about the like budgets to do that, and then we'll go back and talk about everyone's more of their stories.
Yeah, so Coastal Community Center's Fluffy Friend being a school film really means that the budget is non-existent. So, in fact, I had to pay money to the school to make it. So, but really, for this film, if I didn't have the help of all of my classmates helping me, I definitely wouldn't have been possible making this film. It was a 3-month and a half ish project, so we had to get everything done as fast as possible. This was no time really to go back and redo things, so it really needed to be almost or as close to perfect in the first try. I was fortunate enough to be able to use a story that I previously storyboarded already, so it cut off a bunch of time. I didn't have to do all of that work again. But so that really allowed me to allocate resources into developing the whole look of the film, experimenting with visual effects, compositing, and the overall style of animation that I wanted to go for. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. So this is the Fluffy Friends. Coastal Community Center's Fluffy Friends is an animated short student film where an adorably mysterious Fluffy creature of life at the Coastal Community Center. And come enjoy the community center discovering with these fluffy creatures, it's quite cute. So, and Julia, like you mentioned a little bit about the, you hire animator and to create this animation. So, yeah, well, besides that, what other type of budget constraint that you have to face for that?
Yeah, I would consider our production to be very low budget for animation. And we went over budget because it was my first time. It was my first time, and our animation team was very generous with their time, and worked on the project. We were in animation production from, I would say, January of 2021 through to about March of 2023. So they were on the project for about 2 years and not animating full time or even close to that because I didn't have the budget. They had to work other jobs. So that was one of the biggest constraints for all of us, was just not being able to truly pay people their worth for their time, and having the project always kind of be on the back burner when they could get to it. But they actually, Maria and Ava really, they really stepped it up. They really followed through. My biggest fear was that, they were going to burn out after like year 2, like they were just going to burn out, or they were going to get hired full time at an animation studio or something and just be unavailable. But they really pulled through. And so that was the bulk of the animation was labor. And then also our post was very, very fast. I think between sound design and music, that really came together in just a matter of weeks at the very end because we were trying to reach a final deadline. But I would say the entire budget of any sort went toward paying people their wages. I'm trying to think if there was anything, and I had like 1 day of voiceover production. So I had to pay for meals and insurance for that day and studio rental. But yeah, it was almost entirely to pay people their wages, and it was low.
Yeah. So the story is Dragonfly. Is Komura, Japan, 1956. 10-year-old Sumuku chased a red dragonfly through her family's farm where her mother, Yoshiko, watches Tokyo, Japan. 1945, Yoshiko, her husband, Susumu, and the baby boy, Kayoshi, and forced to evacuate their home where hundreds of B-29s dropped instantly bombs, erupting into a massive fire. So definitely it's something. It's quite emotional at the end of that animation. So now let's go back to Esther to talk about in the first place, why were you, like the question, why would you feel this is important to tell your story? I assume this is, maybe it's your personal story. I'm just curious. And also, the pictures that we saw, that it happens all the time from everyone road trips, flat tire happened. So I'm just curious, tell us a little bit about why do you think it's important for you to tell this story?
Yeah, I realized I didn't give a very good intro to my film. But yeah, so Detour Ahead is about a woman crossing the country, and it is inspired by my own story of crossing the country by car. I felt it was important to tell the story because I guess it's my own story, and I was working through some things. The entire story was started because I took 2 road trips during the summer of 2021, like peak COVID, during the time when it was very like anti-Asian a little bit because of COVID and everything. And I was going back to Toronto, where I'm from Vancouver, moving there. moving back for the summer. And so I thought the safest way was to drive. So then I didn't have to be in a plane, and we didn't know what COVID was. So I was like, the safest thing, I'll just stay away from everybody. I'm just going to drive across the country. So it was about that. And I really did hit a deer at the end of it. It was a little bit traumatic, but I think the biggest thing was the difference between the first drive and the second drive, because I actually took two. And then at the end of summer, I drove back from Toronto to Vancouver, moving back for school for my master's with my dad. And that experience was very different from the previous one, I think, because of our perception of myself, who, I was born here, and versus my dad, who was not born here. And we were perceived as a group. And so I think that experience was very interesting and different. And it all kind of stemmed from that, and trying to kind of wrestle with these emotions of being able to be treated one way and then treated something very different. So that was kind of like the experience. So I kind of rolled up all those emotions and then turned it into this road trip story that's kind of an abstractified version of road tripping and just growing up in Canada, and the landscapes you see throughout Canada, and that it can be kind of an unwelcoming place through landscapes and weather, and also through just the political climate of what it was at that time.
Yeah. Was that during summertime, the road trip?
It was two. I took 2 weeks to drive each way, so it was quite slow. Yeah, so I was on the road for 2 weeks for one trip, and then 2 weeks back another trip.
Wow, that's impressive. It's a long trip. Right? Yeah, across the country for sure, definitely. So
yeah.
And so just curious. Like, I think you pretty much tell us a little bit of like why it's relevant to you on this story, and now just maybe talk about a little bit of this animation style. Why you specific use this this style for this animation, because I think animation has so many different kinds. Right? I'm just curious, like from your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think it was very challenging finding the animation style. I spent probably months just trying to figure out what style it should be. I think animation wise, I love the animation style that doesn't do things on twos. My day job is an animator, and I work in commercials and in like traditional stuff all the time, and we always work on twos, and I just didn't want to do the commercially viable thing. So working on threes, fours, fives, and sixes, if I'm going to get nerdy about it, is what I kind of wanted to try to do. And I think I was just playing on that thing of people thinking that thinking that it's like a cheap way of doing it, working on fours and sixes. But I think there's an art to it, and that it's not just the cheap cutting corners way. I think you can do it in an artistic way. And so that's kind of what I was playing on in terms of like the specific movement style. But if I'm talking about the visual style, like layouts and backgrounds, I really tried to be inspired by sort of my Canadian heritage and play on that. I was inspired a lot by the Group of Seven because of the way they're like impressionistic take on Canadian landscapes, and it's so distinctive. And so I tried to pull that sort of impressionistic quality into the landscapes, albeit like the color, or even just trying to keep that texture of like the mixing paints and how it doesn't look smooth and digital. It looks a little bit like it's hand drawn, because it was, even though it's been made on the computer, like I drew every stroke. I basically treated Photoshop like paints.
Yeah. It's definitely had that it's kind of like the West Coast painting, the look with that. Like some of our, at the Vancouver Island, some of the artists have that kind of a design. That's when I first look at that. I'm not sure is it kind of you're coming from for that. But it's that the way that how the visual design look like for that. So yeah. All right. So now we'll go to Hannah, and so fluffy friends. I love this fluffy friend. Why fluffy friends?
That's so when I was conceptualizing this whole story, I really needed to figure out a way to just get through my studies, get through it. And the best way I thought of getting through all of this like turmoil was to just make a really cute, mysterious creature that wreaks havoc on everything. So that that's pretty much what I was going for, and the idea really stuck with me, and I continued to develop it, and I just started to really fall in love with this creature that I've created, and really the evolution of it just continued, and it carried on from my second year onto my third year. And then when it came time where we as third years, we had the option to either create our own film or help others with their films. I thought, not why not why not turn this story, why not make Fluffy Friend into something real. So yeah, that's pretty much where it came from.
I see. Do you turn the fluffy fan to make it like a stuffy? Because
That would be, I would love to. That would be such a good idea.
yeah, it's pretty cute. Okay, yeah. So same thing, like the concept, the idea of this animation, and why? Because it's definitely all of you, the animation visual concept and also the style is different.
Mhm.
It's just coincidence. All three of them is different. So why you pick that particular concept to tell your story?
Yeah, I know for me, one of my goals when it came to making this film was I wanted to make it look as professional as possible, and that was something that was a little it was something that I had to learn being a student in animation school. I've made short films before, but they were just kept to myself, and I didn't think they were very good. But this time, I was really determined to make something that I was really proud of, and what I turned to generate all of this like inspiration and guidance, I really turned to a lot of what has been inspiring me recently or at the time of making the film, which was a lot of Western cartoons, and particularly I really liked the Amazing World of Gumball on Cartoon Network. I really liked Star versus the Forces of Evil, Gravity Falls, and I really admired how even there's these styles, they're all just they're very cartoon like, and animation for kids, whatnot. But then they also had a maturity to them, and I liked how they were able to balance this sense of like being fun and charming, as well as being able to be action packed and exciting and relevant to really all ages. So yeah.
Great, that's good. It's definitely quite cute on this story. And is there any just curious, like any reason behind that? Like I know you said that it's part of your school project. Is there any reason behind that why you like to to, make this story? Actually,
I feel like for me, this story is just it was really I really wanted to prove to myself that I can I can make it here. And I something that I was really worried about was spending my time always just working on other people's projects and other people's passions and whatnot. And I know that maybe an opportunity like this might not come to me again. So it was really important for me to try to, whenever I saw the chance, that I really take it and use it to develop what is exciting to me at the and I really wanted to be able to show not just myself, but also like my family and my friends and all the people who believe in me, whether it be my classmates or professors and whatnot. I I thought that with Coastal Community Center's Fluffy Friend, it would putting all of this together, it would really allow for it to to show them really it's just like, yeah, I could do it. I'm someone that is willing to try and put in the effort and do whatever it takes.
Great. Cool. Yeah, that's definitely, you put your mind on that and then you can make it happen for sure. Now we go to Julia. So for this is 13, like 12, 13 minutes short on this the dragonfly, and this is a historical story, and we talked about a little bit earlier about who you have to make it, but now I don't like to know why you want to make this story. Is it something really personal or someone that's I let you tell the audience.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So when I was in probably my early 20s, I suddenly felt that it would be very important for me to start learning about my family heritage, because I had no, knowing of that prior. And I also had never met any of my grandparents. They either passed away before I was born, or my maternal grandmother, she passed away when I was very young, but she was in Japan, so I never met her. And so in my early 20s, I wanted to learn more. And one of the first things I did was interview my parents. And during the interview process, I asked my mom if she knew anything about what her parents, so my grandparents, what they kind of went through during what we call World War II when they were in Japan. And she had really no idea, but she had been told once that her parents at some point during the war were living in Tokyo, and there was a big fire that forced them to move back to the family farm in Komodo. And that was it. And at some time later, I finally decided to sit down and go through all these notes and do some additional research. And I want to say I just got on Google and typed in like Tokyo 1945 big fire ? And that is how I learned about the Tokyo firebombing. I had never heard of it before. They didn't teach us about it in school. And it was like the most devastating air raid in Japan during World War II. And I was just shocked that I had never heard of it. And I was also shocked because in my mind, I was like, oh, a fire, like, a building burned down, like their apartment building burned down and they had to move home. I didn't have a concept of the destruction of a firebombing. So from there, I kind of developed, this is part of a much bigger story that I've been developing on and off for many years about like my family heritage. But at some point, I was telling a friend, and her name is Fern Lim. She's one of the associate producers on the short. I was telling her this family heritage story. And I think later that same day, she texted me and she was like, I just saw a block of animated shorts at a film festival. It was amazing. That story you told me about the firebombing, have you ever thought about making it into an animated short? And I was like, no, Fern, I have not. But that was sort of like the beginning. She planted that seed and I was like, okay, well, if I ever do want to try and produce a part of this story, like self-produce it, that animation might be the way to go. And yeah, so it's very much inspired. I like to say it's very much inspired by the little known lives of my maternal grandparents and what they may have gone through, because nobody knows. I don't know if this was the exact firebombing that they survived, because there were hundreds of them, but I do know that they were in Tokyo, or we've been told, and that they went back to the family farm. And like the little girl, like the sort of beginning and the end are set in 1956 on the farm. That little girl is my mom. And that whole sort of framing device with the dragonfly is inspired by a story she told me about how she used to capture dragonflies and keep them in little houses and try and keep them as pets. And she would like feed them and make little houses for them. So that's all inspired by stuff that my mom has told me.
Nice. That's quite cute. We heard about all the story, capture the butterfly, capture the silkworm, capture the dragonflies to become a little pets when we were all young. So the concept, the visual concept, because you said you work with the animator, and you probably go through the creative process with the animator and why you decided to this is the look, this is the design that you like to use that, and then before you go to like putting down on every single frame.
Yeah. So before, like in the early process, before I started like interviewing animators and other, members of the team, I had put together essentially like a Bible pitch deck that had just a bunch of frames from already existing animated films, a lot of shorts, just going on YouTube and like what were like the award-winning shorts of this year, what were the Academy Award nominated shorts, just like everything, just seeing all these different style and aesthetic ideas from other shorts, and I put those into sort of like a document of like, this is maybe what I'm going for this part. And I think early on and a lot of this was motivated by knowing that I had budget constraints as well. So early on, I knew that I wanted the stuff in 1956 to be in color and the stuff in 1945 to be in black and white, although technically there is still color in there. And I knew I wanted the scenes in color to either be reflective of watercolor or maybe even crayon. And then I knew that the scenes in black and white, I wanted to kind of have the feel of either like pencil or graphite or ink. And I had like examples. And when I was interviewing people, several animators were kind enough to do basically like test samples. And Maria was one of those people, and it was kind of one of those things where she came back to me with her samples after we had had met and had a conversation, and I was just like, yep, that's it. that's it. And she just kind of like took the pictures I showed her and probably whatever talking I did to her from my head, and she made it her own thing and came back with samples. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I know part of the process for her, because it was such a long process, she was experimenting as well. Like she did stuff with like cutouts and puppets, and like there's stuff that is some that's hand drawn. Most of it is 2D computer animation, but you can see different like layers throughout. And we did it in chronological order, so you can see like those different layers of her playing around with things to make it work. And I just remember pretty much like every time the team would come back to me with stuff, I was like, yeah, this is way more amazing than I was expecting. Thank you. Yeah. And it just, you just kind of find the right team. And even though I'm not an animator, I could like verbalize or show images, and they processed that in their way and made it their own, and then came back to me. It's basically scene by scene.
Nice. So, like, if any of the audience that they're online, if they're interested, they feel free to ask questions in the live channel comments, and then we'll get to that towards the end. But for now, it's just like I'm just curious because this is, animation is so visual, right? So, and for all the story that I hear from you guys, everyone, have that story, have the concept, and but at least somehow who is the person that inspired you, who to not just write the story or inspire you to become an animator, or who will be the person, or anyone that you would like to work with in the future, or and what the animator, or what story, what movie is like your favorite. So those are the three different questions for different one. And because all your style is so different, we're just curious, like why in the first place you want to be an animator for that. So who'd like to go? It can be random. I'll give you a few seconds. 1, 2, 3, maybe. Okay, Hannah, your mic is on. So Hannah.
Sure. Yeah. I grew up at a time where YouTube was really starting to take off, and something that was really popular when I was in elementary school, early high school, was YouTube animated shorts. and especially people who were telling who were animating their short stories or even just animating their lives and telling stories about just things that happened to me, and then they would animate. And I thought that was so cool. And I remember watching a process video of how one of these animators, they made it, and I'm like, wait. So all of this it's all made. It's not necessarily they draw it on paper, but they draw it directly onto the computer. And that was something that was really eye-opening for me. And it brought me to a whole new world of, and that is digital media. And I realized that while I did enjoy working physically, whether it be drawing on paper, painting on canvas, I felt like with this world of digital media and the internet and being able to have all of these resources available to me, I felt like it was so free. And with animation, because I was it lighted this spark in me. I wanted to learn more, and I really started seeking out animation. I really started to find animations, cartoons, animes, all things that would really drive me and spark this passion and inspire me to be just like them. So I guess if there was someone that I wanted to work with in the future, okay, it was just like a fangirl in me because I really liked watching their YouTube videos. I like Jaden Animations. They're a YouTube animator, and I really like their stuff, and they made me laugh, and they really inspired me all this time. So if I had to pick a person, it would be her.
You put it out there, this out there. You never know. Maybe someday she'll knock on the
Yes,
door.
please.
You just don't know, right? So Esther.
Yeah. How to get into animation? Animation was, I feel like I fell into animation. I grew up only with like TVO and like Arthur. And so I didn't, like in movies, but I didn't really want to be in animation. I didn't know it existed until pretty late in high school when I had to like figure out what I wanted to do. Yeah, so I kind of chose animation because I didn't want to be a starving artist. And there were jobs in animation at the time. And I knew somebody who's doing quite well in animation. So I was like, yes. And my dad was actually the one who kind of convinced me to do it and take it seriously, which is, a little bit rare for parents to push you into it. And so I was like, I better take it seriously. So that's kind of how I got into it. At the beginning, animation was probably my least favorite part of the process. I think over time, I find it really meditative now, and I really love it. It's kind of like a thing where it's challenging, and there's a lot of magic and craft. And I always drew as a kid, so I honestly just like drawing. So every part of the animation process, including storyboards, design, whatever, is fun for me. Animation was just the part that took a little longer to get into, but after I figured it out, it's like so fun. So that's how I got into animation. I don't know who I'd like to work with. I honestly, there's so many great artists out there that I feel like I'm working with so many great artists already that I'm pretty content. And I'd love to work with more great artists. The industry is also such a nice one. Like, everybody's so nice. I feel like it's because it's just like such a team effort kind of thing, that everybody's nice and they're nerds and they like art. So it's just a good time. And then favorite artists are, I love Akira just because it's a classic and it's so good. And for traditional animation, it like holds up to this day. Like, the animation is so good. And like, as a hand-drawn animator, it's so good. You can't beat it. But like, storytelling wise, I'd say maybe Satoshi Kon. Paprika is probably like my favorite movie, in my favorite animated movie, and it's very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Now it's Julia's turn.
Yeah, I think I'll deviate a little bit because my path isn't specifically in animation, but more with writing and producing. When I was a child, I grew up as a competitive gymnast. And when you're a kid, you think like that's your life. And I think I quit in early high school or so. And I got to a point, and also I think my dad got to a point where he's like, okay, what are you going to do with your life now? And I had a friend who was in like the drama club, and this would have been like middle school and or high school. And she used to talk about it a lot. And I was like, what's that like? Is it fun? And she said it was the most fun thing she ever did. So in high school, I got into theater and drama club and did a lot of focus on acting. And I did community theater. And then when I was 18, on my 18th birthday, I went to Los Angeles to pursue a professional acting career. And I did do that for many years. But early on, I discovered that if I wanted to play roles that were actually that I was actually interested in, that were actually multi-layered, especially during that time. This is like 20 years ago. The diversity that we have seen, especially for Asians and Asian Americans in the last 5 years, did not exist 20 years ago. So you did not see people that look like us on screen in leading roles. And non-stereotypical roles. So I learned early on, if I wanted to play like actual meaty roles that meant something to me, that were of real people, that were not stereotypical, in stories that were important to me, that I would just have to write and produce them myself. So that's what I started doing. I started writing and producing low, no budget, DIY, working with friends. And I kind of continued doing that for many years, while also still like acting and then working day jobs and, just doing the whole Los Angeles grind. And then during COVID, I moved back up to Oregon, where I was from. And because of COVID, I kind of was like, well, like the acting industry, I mean, it just died. I mean, the whole industry just kind of died for like 2 years, and there were like strikes, and at least down here, it was like 2 strikes, COVID. It just died. And so I really started focusing on writing, and the whole idea of like focusing more on writing and producing. And then with Dragonfly, because it's already been, we're at like the end of our festival run, actually. So it's been on the circuit for about 18 months, and I've gotten to see a lot of amazing animated shorts on the festival circuit. And listen, I can't draw. I don't expect to ever be able to draw. I don't think I could. I'm so bad at it. I don't think I would have the patience to learn to be good at it. But watching all these shorts on the festival circuit, I am really into stop motion. And if I were to be able to take the time and to afford to like go to school or take a class, I don't even know if they do classes, like one-off classes, or have any kind of like learning or education experience in animation, I would want someone to teach me how to do stop motion. Because I've seen some amazing thing. It's like mind-blowing to me. That it's like magic, right? And I think that's the great thing about animation in general, is I just saw so many films on the festival circuit that I was like, this is magic. How did they do this? Like, it's magic. So I think that would be, if I ever, have the time or take the time to focus on educating myself in the animation field, I think that's what I would want to pursue. But then like a lot of like Dragonfly, a lot of like aesthetically was sort of inspired by Studio Ghibli and like Miyazaki. I had a lot of Miyazaki references in my pitch deck. And I think growing up on like classic Disney movies, I didn't see, like a Miyazaki film probably until I was an adult or at least a teenager. And I didn't know that animation could be that level of emotional, like just growing up on kids stuff. Just kind of making that transition to animation that was just like heavier and dealt with more political and social subjects. And I'm also really into the idea of not like adult animation, but the whole idea of the side of the industry where animation is no longer assumed to be for kids or family, and exploring like that world. And again, on the festival circuit in the indie world, people are doing it. It's just in the mainstream world, I think animation is still very much associated with family, which is great too. But I'd love to see more sort of like, yeah, the Akiras and that sort of heavier stuff in the genre.
For sure, for sure. So like we know, like you mentioned it, yours is pretty much is the tail end of the festival circus. I'm just curious, Esther and Hannah, because I think that is your kind of beginning, especially Hannah definitely is a yeah. So what is the next step for both of yours story for your animations?
Well, for me, it is Coastal Community Center's Fluffy Friend has been submitted to a few more festivals, and particularly in Europe, and just waiting for the announcements to come out. And for this film's festival run, it has screened it screened last month in the Calgary International Film Festival, and that experience was wild. And and like Julia mentioned, I had the opportunity to see all these like really cool shorts, and it was really amazing to see, like, oh wow, my small school film, I'm here. And it was like I was really amazed, because when the credits would roll on a lot of those short films, I would see like they would have a big sponsors like Netflix or like Warner Bros. Or like, and I'm like, how did? And then when my film comes up, it's just my name and my school, and I'm like, I'm just happy to be here, So really, I'm just here trying to have a good time and just see what's out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's how I feel first have that opportunity to. So Esther, yeah.
Yeah, it's just at the start, I would say, of its film festival run. Yeah, it only started, I think, in late August, so it's pretty at the beginning. It's just playing in, I think it just played in Philadelphia, and it's playing where in the UK, either last weekend or this weekend. I can't keep track anymore. I'm not a producer. That's not my job. That's not my day job, and I'm doing it on this film, and I need a real producer. But yeah, it's playing in Toronto also as part of Toronto Real Asian Film Festival. So it's kind of playing around. I'm still waiting for a bunch more too, but I think the fun part is just to meet filmmakers also, and like other people in the industry, because it's a great industry and it's fun. And I think that's the cool part about making things, is just connecting with people, and that it connects people. And so, yeah.
Cool. Great. Good. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if any audience, online audience, that they're interested to ask any question at this point. But if they please put it on the comments, and then we will ask our filmmakers here. So so now the story. What's the development of the story? Are you guys planning to turn this story to a larger project, or this is it? I'm gonna make a new one, different thing. Tell us. This is just a short. It's like only a few minutes, right? For all of that, I think Julie is the 13, still a short. So yeah, tell us what is your thinking for this, or maybe other things. Let us know, Hannah. Since your mic is still on, because it's only 2 minutes. So tell us. I want more because it's only 2 minutes. Give me the fluffy friends.
Yes. Honestly, I really love Fluffy Friend. Actually, my team and I, we named Fluffy Friend Cabbage. So and something that I was like, I always thought would be like so it would be really fun to do. It would just make and you mentioned it before, make stuffies of Fluffy Friend. And I so badly just want to hold it. I want to hold it and squeeze it, even though it's probably going to explode my head off. but I I feel like for the story, I can't exactly imagine like further continuations of like an animated series or a bigger movie or anything, because I feel like the story itself is very contained and it gets to the point, and Fluffy Friend's story it is the short. That's all there is to it. And so in terms of actually like making Fluffy Friend to further into a film or whatnot, I don't have plans for it yet. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. Uh, Toy line, maybe, if anyone wants to help me. Okay. But right now I'm focusing really on my grad film, which is a completely different style, and but there are some similarities between my grad film and this one, and which is both of them are eating me. They're eating, taking bits part of my soul. I feel like I'm shaving a few years of my life trying to get these films done. But yeah, that's Fluffy Friend.
Esther?
Yeah, Detours Ahead is definitely a one and done. I would like to make more.
Yeah.
More films. I feel like short films is kind of like a drug for me. It's like the first one, after I made it, I was like hooked, and then I was trying to make a second one, and now I made a second one. So now I want to make a third one.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm kind of just chipping away at different ideas right now, early stages. I'm still trying to get this film into festivals and do that thing first, playing producer on this one. So yeah, so when I get time in between that, I'll just like try to work on a new one, and I get to wear the director hat again. But yeah, for now just
Yeah.
this.
Well, you know, there's a lot of different ways, right? So keep going, keep doing it. So, Julia?
Sorry, unmute. Yeah, so this, I kind of briefly mentioned, this is like part of a much larger story that I started writing, I don't know how many years, like 15 years ago. That was originally a feature film. And the Tokyo firebombing was just like one small section of this story that covered like 3 generations of my family history. So it was originally a feature film script that was like 150 pages too long. And then at some point, a few years later, I adapted it to be like a limited series, like an HBO limited series. So I really like honed in on just writing the hour pilot. And then I haven't touched it in a while because structurally it wasn't quite working. And a part of me wants to kind of like go back and try it again as a feature, but to like take the structure of a film like The Joy Luck Club and try and be inspired by that structure of flashbacks and see if I can make it work in that. But you know, I haven't touched it in a minute. What I have done is I have like a sister short in development that is intended to be live action. And it's inspired by my paternal grandfather, who was incarcerated in Heart Mountain incarceration camp during World War II. And that story is, again, like this fictionalized version of what might have been, because we don't really know. But is also inspired by the draft resistance that was big at Heart Mountain in that time. And but it's intended to be live action, and I actually want to I'm considering doing a virtual production for it. So I have a friend who is like comes from CGI animation, and her specialty is environments. Her name is Charlie Frail, and she has offered to try and like rebuild the internment camp in Unreal Engine. And the idea being we could shoot that in a virtual production. But that film, right, historical drama, live action, would be very, very expensive. So that's the limit there. It would be a very expensive short film. So I have a script, and then I'm kind of like just sitting on it for now. And I have a feature film in development that I'm in financing for. So we're, again, trying to raise money. That has nothing to do, that's a totally different story. Present day, dramedy. so that those have kind of been my focus next. But every time I like talk to animators or like go see an animation block, I'm just like, the wheels start spinning. I'm like, what's like a really, really simple thing that I could try and do? Like stop motion, like what's the story? Or every time I see something, I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. Or I wonder if, you know, I could do it with just a really small team. Like right now, I'm just like, as you guys were talking, I'm like, oh, I wonder, maybe I could do another animated short next too. Like, what would it be? And so I definitely want to continue working in this medium. It's just a matter of like not having the specific skill set to be the animator myself, and also needing to educate and train, and you know, that whole process that, you know, is probably holding me back right now.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's definitely, you guys leave a lot of story contents here for our audience to you know and you know to get to know you guys more, and also hopefully with this, and then definitely all the audience out there, and they watch again and go check out the virtual program. We have it from now until November 17. You can go online at learn more at the VAFF.org, and then so you know. We have more programmings even in person, one more on the November 16. Everything you can learn is at VAFF.org. So for now, and thank you so much for you guys, and we'll hopefully someday we'll meet you all in person, and you take care, and thanks the audience listening to us at this point, and see you out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye.